We ask you, our viewers, to send in your most important gardening and landscaping questions. And now I'm going to answer them for you. Chances are somebody has asked us what you've been wondering and what one of your problems is, so stick around and learn with all of us. What is one flower that has the most amount of nectar for hummingbirds? Best if perennial for zone 5. One that I really like for zone 5, or most zones actually, I think 3 to 9, is bee balm from the mint family. Tremendous attractor for hummingbirds. Another very unusual, but I just started to develop an affection for it, and it's really good at attracting hummingbirds, is a dwarf vitex. The common name is chast tree, and it's called blue diddley vitex. And blue diddley only gets like 3 to 4 feet tall, so it's useful in gardens. The regular vitex is so big, it's kind of hard to work in. I planted a honey locust tree 1 year ago. It has struggled with shock all this growing year. What can I do? So not just for honey locust, but for almost any tree, I do a few things. Hopefully you planted it at the right height and you don't have standing water or anything. So in other words, you're watering it properly. If it has shock, it probably lost some roots. So that moisture is important because it's the roots that supply water to the leaves. So you want to make sure it has appropriate moisture, but not saturated at all. For any struggling trees, I like to use our blend. What we're trying to do is, in a natural way, infuse it with as much soil life and minerals and nutrients as possible. Not chemically though, so not strong stuff, but things that can make the soil as healthy as possible and things that the plant can uptake easily. And so our blend is excellent for that. In a small tree like that you just planted, I'd use about 6 pounds of blend over the root zone, and then do about 3 or 4 applications weekly of penetrate liquid biotiller right over the blend. The other thing that is really overlooked, but I think is important, is after you put the blend on, you mulch it over the root zone, either with just some wood-based compost, or you could use something like earthworm castings if you want to mulch it. How can we control grubs in our lawn without using pesticides? Does John and Bob's blend help control grubs? So John and Bob's blend and all of our products are the best way to control grubs on a long-term basis. So we're building the soil with complex life, and that's the best defense against grubs. But if you are using the product line and you have this issue immediately, there are other products that are organic and that work good and that are complementary to our products. So that's important, is not to just look online and find something for grubs, because most likely it's a chemical. But there's 3 products that I like to recommend for grubs. Beneficial nematodes, which you can get from Arbico Organics. If you go to their website, they have a good description of which ones work best for grubs. Milky spore. Milky spore is widely available, and that works really good specifically for Japanese beetle grubs. You can have other types of grubs, but Japanese beetle grubs are defeated very successfully with milky spore. BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, and the specific species called Galleria. You can buy it in a simple product called Grub Gone, which is available online. That's also a beneficial bacteria, builds soil just like our products. All of those work together to be very effective combatants of grubs. Can plants develop an immune system to fight off diseases with proper care and products? That is a fantastic question, and exactly what our product line is all about, and what soil-based gardening is about. The way to keep your plants healthy and allow them to develop their immunity is with soil-based gardening. Let's do it through the soil. Did you know soil can produce its own pesticides, but it has to have all kinds of life. Soil can make it so plants can communicate with each other. This is the way to garden. Build that soil underneath, and then we're addressing almost every pest and disease there is. You asked us a lot of questions about pest and disease, and I'm not able to answer all of them right now in this video, but all of them will come down to building complex soil life in the soil. If you don't really have healthy soil and you've just begun to build it, then you want to use products that don't damage the soil while they address the specific problem you have. Do you have a question that we're not answering? Then drop it in the comments below and we'll make a part 2. Lawn question. I think I have fungus, but not sure exactly which one. I want to get away from chemicals. My lawn is in Long Island and we have cool season grasses. What do you recommend as both a short and long-term program? The short and long-term solution are the same. The problem we have is that products that are typically sold to address fungus damage your soil, and your soil is your best way to permanently, short and long-term, solve the fungus problem. Mainly because beneficial fungi are way stronger than the bad fungus that is affecting and causing these brown spots. Most likely, over the course of most people caring for their lawn, they haven't built up the life in the soil. What we recommend is some way of adding organic matter and complex soil life, products like ours or compost products. So we specifically recommend our blend and our penetrate liquid biotiller, and then fertilize with something like our Nourish Biosol or other organic fertilizers that are good for the soil and that build life in the soil. And that's not that common to find fertilizer that can build life in the soil while feeding your lawn. With chemical fungicides, we use a fungicide to kill the offender, which is a bad fungus, but we kill other things at the same time, and then we pretty much guarantee that we're going to continue to get it every year. Most fungal diseases are also brought on by too much water, so you want to be very careful with how you apply water and make sure it's even and you don't have any areas that are too wet or any areas that are too dry. That can be a challenge. We want to water as little as possible and have everything look good, and then we want to infuse our soil with life. What will improve iron chlorosis? Iron chlorosis is kind of a technical term. It means the leaves are yellow. Even when you have iron chlorosis, usually, not 100% of the time, but usually your soil has plenty of iron. For one reason or another, your plants can't uptake the iron even though it's in the soil. Usually you've already tried putting more iron in the soil and you still have iron chlorosis. So what we want is soil that allows plants to uptake everything that's in it, and the best solution for that is a solution you'll hear me talk about frequently, which is soil rich in life. Soil microbes make nutrients available to plants by breaking down organic matter through mineralization. And so we're trying to address this imbalance of minerals, even though we don't know exactly what the imbalance is. How can you get rid of nutsedge grass naturally? Naturally, that's the key word here, that is almost impossible to get rid of nutsedge naturally. But the one way that you could, that I've done, called nutsedge because it has a little nut in the bottom, and that little nut becomes dislodged very easily if you try to pull it without getting the nut. And then if you don't get the nut, it'll just resprout. And so you could pull like crazy and not get rid of the nutsedge. So the only way to naturally get rid of nutsedge is to very carefully dig out the nutsedge and pull the nutsedge and the nut, which is connected to the roots, out all at the same time. Really, really difficult to do in lawn, almost impossible, but I've done it in big shrub areas where I had a lot of nutsedge. And that's not a very good answer, I apologize, but it's the only answer to do it naturally. The only way to get rid of it in lawn is chemically. And there's two chemicals that I use, and a lot of times I alternate them because I find that the alternation seems to make the process go better and faster. Dismiss and sedge hammer. You have to apply it when the nutsedge or nutgrass is growing, so that's when it's warm, and you apply it on the lawn at exactly the labeled rate, and you're going to need to make more than one application. So if you're dedicated to getting rid of the nutgrass, you start and have a preparation or a plan to apply about every 2 to 3 weeks over the course of 3 months or so. You can get rid of it that way. Best practices for preventing weeds from taking over your lawn. They never stop coming back. Probably our most common question. The first thing I emphasize is let's make your soil and your lawn as healthy as possible first. And in the beginning here, let's overlook the weeds and see if just by making the healthiest, most strong, dense lawn possible, we can outcompete weeds. Focus on feeding your soil, feeding your lawn properly, and watering properly and mowing properly. Our goal here is we're building this super healthy lawn that can outcompete weeds. That might not happen. You might still have a lot of weeds. So then we look at the least toxic ways to get rid of the weeds and prevent weeds that aren't terrible for soil. A couple of products that I think are pretty good: Captain Jack's lawn weed killer, Tenacity. And then the last thing you can use is some type of pre-emergent like Dimension. The timing on that is real important. Depending on where you live, it's different. In our area, it's probably into January. So it's before these weeds that sprout every year come out. We want to come up with a protocol here where we solve the weed problem, and then we rely on healthy soil and proper care to make it so we don't have to continue to use those chemicals. Is once a year application of our blend enough? Blend is the combination of 3 of our products: Soil Optimizer, Maximize, and Nourish Biosol. And once a year can be enough, especially if you have a pretty healthy garden and landscape and no major problems. If you're trying to really dramatically change your soil and change the performance of your plants, then we'd recommend at least twice a year. Some people prefer to apply even more than twice a year. Another boost you could do if you're trying to make changes faster is apply the Penetrate Liquid Biotiller and the blend at the same time. Would it be best to put my last application of blend on the lawn September 1 or October 1? Somehow I think the later I do it, the least effective it will be on the grass. Same thing for spring. I'm in Texas, so should I start it after winter on March 1st or April 1? Blend works the best if the soil is active, meaning the microbial life in the soil is active. Soil goes into dormancy when it gets cold. If the soil temperature is less than 50 and the atmospheric temperature is high, is less than, say, about 70, your soil is not very active. And when things are dormant, I don't really like to apply blend. What could happen is if you get a lot of moisture, these products could start to break down and leach through your soil profile without doing anything. We need the soil to be active and the plants to be active in order for it to work. So that September date would probably be the latest I would want to do it. In the spring, depends on your local weather and climate. You start to get highs 70 and above and soil temperatures 50 and above, then that's when you can apply the blend and it'll go right to work. What would cause my white roses to bloom beautifully at first bloom and then convert subsequent growth to only suckers without bloom? This began a couple years ago on only 1 out of 12. Now all 12 are doing the same. First of all, the fact that they bloom coming out of dormancy and a time when you probably had rain and you had moist soil would cause me to look very carefully at the watering. Weather gets warmer and then the rose responds very differently. I would go towards too little water, although it could be too much. Either one can cause a problem. Then for roses, a real powerful protocol is to use our blend over the root zone and put over the blend a good quality earthworm castings. And then if you want to really address bloom and health, about once a month, spray over with Penetrate Liquid Biotiller. If the problem is a watering problem, that would also help with moisture retention. The water output of my drip irrigation has significantly reduced through the years. I assume it might be clogging of the holes or mineral deposits. Please suggest ways to get my drip irrigation back to optimal level. So that's a difficult question to answer without seeing what you have, but just a few things that come to mind. Most drip systems are put in with filters. If yours wasn't, it should have been. That should probably be cleaned about once a year. And if you're cleaning it once a year, or you've never cleaned it, clean it now, and that could impact flow dramatically and have nothing to do with clogging of the emitters. Secondly, if you have a drip system, you have valves where the water originates from, and most of those valves will have what's called a flow control, and that's a way to control how much water flows through the valve. So what you could try is opening the valve more if you're having problems with flow and you don't seem to be getting water. There's lots of other things that are more technical, but that's where I'd start, and that's the first thing that comes to mind. This is Chip Valentino, my vice president in charge of difficult questions. Luckily, he got here before we finished. If your question is what 5 ingredients can improve any soil, then check out this video here to find out the answer. If we didn't answer your question, we'll do a part 2 or a part 3.